How's this?
Perfect.
Yes.
I've never been so happy to see a white man in my life.
I like it. I like it.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How you guys that side?
Good. You know, it's we're fighting with Corona. What about you all?
Yeah, likewise. We kind of, I don't know, maybe we on the same part of the curve as you guys.
On the other side of it, New York is. America is not.
No, it's quite hectic here. Theoretically, you guys should have been cruising towards a bit more happiness now, but for various reasons, you're not, evidently.
Hold on one second. There's a very interesting woodworker who's in Sweden who just said, I can hear an accent I remember from the time living in
Umhlanga.
Yes.
Umhlanga is a beautiful little coastal spot on the KwaZulu-Natal coast, on the northern part of the east coast of South Africa, heading up towards the Mozambican border up there. Hey, cool. What are you doing in Sweden?
And he said small world. I guess that's what he meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in Sweden. He's a woodworker lunatic. He has vintage machines, and they're all from the same period of years.
Uthetha isiXhosa.
This is beautiful. Cool. This is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I must make a note of this and follow this person.
Yep, absolutely. He's a good guy.
Cool. Yeah.
So for the first time, our president last night said that this is a problem. We need to fix it, and it doesn't look good. For the first time.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can make some progress.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
And he's telling people to wear masks. Because there was a serious rebellion here against wearing masks.
Yeah, I believe so. It's become a bit of a culture war kind of issue, whether you do or don't wear a mask, which, I don't know, seems a bit bizarre.
Yeah, it's not a political issue. It's a healthcare issue. Yeah. So,
exactly.
How you feeling? How's your day? What time of day is it there?
Oh, man, it's the Cape Town. So Cape Town winters we have a Mediterranean climate. We have cold, wet winters. Our rainy season is in winter.
You're in the winter in Africa?
Yeah. We're in the slap bang in the middle of winter here.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot as a mother here.
Okay. Yeah, every now and again in the middle of winter we get these absolutely outrageously beautiful days in Cape Town, where there's no wind and the sun's warm. I mean, walking around in a t-shirt, it's like 20 degrees centigrade. It's it's a beautiful day.
So do you sell flowers as well?
No. So what you're looking at here is outside of my studio space. There's the guys I rent the space from import. They're one of the oldest industrial ceramics operations in South Africa, and they import huge ceramic planters and pots from China. So I've got a little studio space. It's on an old farm. I'm kind of in the stable block of the old farm, in the midst, surrounded by these thousands and thousands of huge, monstrous ceramic pots from China.
And they can't make that there?
They do. These guys used to do that. They still do tableware, flatware and stuff in their factory in Johannesburg. To a lesser degree, this sort of scale of stuff, it's evidently makes a lot more sense financially to just bring in container loads.
Yeah, there went the world. Buy it from China.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so we're going to start with a series of questions, and then we'll get into your journey.
Okay, cool. Let's go.
I'm going to turn this fan on because I'm hot.
Cool.
So if that's a problem with the noise, let me know.
Sure.
All right. What is your most overused phrase or word?
Probably holy shit, something along those lines.
What is your least favorite thing to do?
Work-wise, in my working life?
In life.
Probably in life. For the last 6 months, maybe, looking at what's going on in the world at the moment. To be honest, I'm feeling an increasing need to just bubble myself down here at the bottom of Africa and not know what's going on elsewhere. So yeah.
All right. What is your most favorite thing to do?
Hanging with my bae on a Sunday morning with a good cup of coffee and a croissant.
Okay. That doesn't sound too bad. What is the one thing your spouse or significant other would change about you?
About me?
About you.
What's good there? Okay, I'd rather not dwell on that. Next one, please.
It can't be that much. What makes you tick, motivates you?
Increasingly, I find learning about this craft, learning about my craft. Yeah.
Okay.
Try learning and researching, learning and teaching myself new skills. It's really become a big part of my life.
Right. What irks you the most?
Any kind of bigotry, I think,
okay,
presses my buttons big time.
Right. What sound makes you happiest?
Probably the sound of an elephant's stomach rumbling this far away from my ear on the other side of a piece of canvas.
Do you hear that often?
Not here. I used to. Big chunk of my adult life was spent working in very remote parts of Africa, in the bush,
okay,
in the tourism industry, and yeah, often used to have big fat grey animals rubbing up against the tent in the middle of the night. And the sound of an elephant's stomach rumbling at 2 a.m. is a thing to behold. Really is.
What sound bothers you?
Traffic.
Don't move to New York.
Thought so.
What profession other than your own would you like to try?
Other than my own, I think what appeals the most would probably be ceramics. Working with ceramics, that appeals in a big way, and I might still get to playing with that. Yeah.
Okay. What would you like on your tombstone?
On my tombstone?
Yep.
He loved Africa.
Right. What is it about your personality that drives your business?
Wow. Are you a lumberjack or a psychiatrist?
I'm not good at either one. But I try really hard at both.
I think probably a desire to grow, a desire to learn and grow at this point.
What is it about your personality that hinders your business?
A lack of self-confidence, I would imagine, is probably the biggest one in terms of putting my work out into the world. Yeah.
Your lack of confidence, where does it most manifest itself?
In the marketing side of my business, in having the confidence to take my work and confidently and strongly put it out in the world. It's not a something that comes easily. It's a battle.
It is. It's
yeah.
Putting yourself out there is it's not easy.
Yeah.
It requires a certain confidence.
Yeah.
I
think in some respects that's something that's always been a part of my personality, but more so recently since I have moved into doing what I'm doing now, because I still feel this is new to me. There's so much that I need to learn, so much in terms of my skill set that I need to develop, that at times when I sat a couple of days ago and listened to your chat with John Jordan, like, holy crap, I've got a long way to go.
Well,
but
okay, two things. First thing is, if your confidence affects you in marketing, your confidence has also have to affect your price and your work.
It does. But therein lie some other challenges. South Africa, the market for high-end craft in South Africa is very, very different to the market for high-end craft in the States or Europe or Asia. It doesn't. It's the kind of market here that can carry the prices that the level of craft that I'm aspiring to. It's a very small market here. The bulk, I know that the bulk of the market that I need to be in a year or so's time approaching is outside of this country. But yeah, Europe, it's the confidence, initially at least, has affected my price and my work. It's something I'm aware of, and it's something I need to get over.
Yes, you have to. It's a part of growth. It's a part of doing business, and it's a part of being sustainable in business. Okay, so now let's talk about John Jordan. He's on the other extreme.
Yeah.
Right. He's legend, and he's done this all his life.
Yeah.
So,
true.
So if you didn't start this 30 years ago, you're not going to catch up.
What? No, I did not. I did not.
So we have to do our best where we are.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. Damn fine advice. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep. And you do great work.
Thanks. Thanks.
And
yeah, I'm getting there. It's still a craft that's very new to me. I've worked with wood now for the last 9 years. Some of the other stuff that I do, but turning side of it, literally a year and a half, 2 years, I've been playing with turning. And probably I've only started putting my work out after probably since around about this time last year, maybe September last year, somewhere there, September, October last year. So yeah, in many respects, it's become an obsession very, very quickly. It's really all I want to do. Not all I can do at the moment. It's not sustainable. But yeah, it's nice knowing that there's so much more to learn, so many more skills to develop.
Yeah, the journey does not end.
For sure.
And when it does, let's hope neither of us are breathing.
Yeah.
Because there's a big problem. Who would you travel cross country with on a motorcycle?
On a motorcycle? Definitely my partner. Definitely. She'd be the best traveling companion.
Right.
Easily.
What was your favorite concert?
My favorite concert? A long, long time ago. A band called Jaluka. Guy by the name of Johnny Clegg. Yeah, look it up.
Right.
Long, long time ago. At university in town. Hot, sweaty university music venue. This was in the mid 80s, 85.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
When was the last time you cried?
A couple of nights ago, watching a movie on Netflix. I'm really embarrassed to tell you what the movie was. We can see that there.
Was it Exotic Joe?
I haven't gone there yet. No, it wasn't.
Don't waste your time.
Yeah. Cool.
Crazy Americans.
Looks like it. Although it's quite the whole big cat conservation thing appeals. I wouldn't mind watching it just to get a handle on that side of it. It'd be interesting.
Yeah. You can. Okay, so you watched the movie and the movie made you cry.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. What impact do you want to leave on your industry?
Say again? I lost you there.
What impact do you want to leave on your industry?
I would love to get to a point relatively soon where I can work on diversifying the group of people who practice this craft in South Africa. Skill transferal, teaching, and diversifying it. We can get into that now or later, but the turning community in South Africa.
We're about 4 minutes away.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the teaching and spreading skills.
All right. When was the most difficult time for your business, and how did you overcome it?
Probably currently, the last few months. This year was supposed to be, for the turning side of my business, a fairly big year. The biggest chunk of the market that I've identified that I want to approach is the high-end safari tourism market in Southern and East Africa, and it's gone. And it was looking to be very exciting as a marketing year for me. That vaporized in a heartbeat. So now it's probably the most challenging time. Yeah.
So,
and how have I overcome? To be entirely honest, I haven't. It still feels very much like we're in the midst of a very crazy time.
we are.
And I have not successfully overcome it. I'm very, very lucky in that we have a partner who has kept her work in her creative field that she works in, and if it wasn't for that, we'd be in trouble.
Or you would have found another way to make it work.
Or exactly. It's slowly starting to open up, and the opportunities are starting to come. So yeah, it's starting to happen. But yeah, we would have made it work somehow.
We always do.
We do.
Whatever the situation is, it appears tough, it appears unmanageable, and through it all, we persevere.
This is true.
Do you have any black friends?
I do.
How many?
I do. 6.
Okay. Do you often see
6.
Do you,
Say again, do I often?
Do you often see people of color in your industry?
No.
Okay.
Therein lies another story.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about that before we get into your journey. Is wood turning big in South Africa or Africa?
No. Africa, you know, southern, the part of Africa that I'm familiar with, East Africa and southern, has, you know, there's lots of long history of a long history of wood, using wood as a material for producing beautiful pieces. Wood turning per se, in my brief involvement with it in South Africa, is not something that's not a craft that's widely practiced in the black community in this country at all. Just give you an example, an illustration of that. I've been to 2 of the annual conventions of the South African Wood Turning Association. Last year and the year before. The year before was before I even got a lathe of my own. I'd just kind of started realizing that this was a craft I wanted to pursue. And I think I was just starry-eyed and overcome with all the great toys in the sales area. And Al Sturge was the overseas demonstrator that year, and he was great. And I had quite an interesting time. September last year, I went to the second convention that I've been to, and at one point in the demonstration room, I was standing at the back of the room, and I thought, hang on a second, what's wrong with this picture? And there was a total, so this is the National Turning Association in the country. There was a total of around about somewhere between 80 and 90 people in the hall watching the demonstration, of which maybe 5 or 6 were under 50. 2 were female, and only one of those two women was a turner. I know this for a fact. The other one was accompanying her partner. And there were 2 guys there, both of whom worked for one of the white guys who was attending.
So let me pause you. It's no different here. It's no different here.
Yeah.
And the description you gave about the demographic of race, age, and gender is the same here. Now there are a lot more women that are getting involved. A lot more.
Mm. Yeah.
But few people of color. There are more people getting young involved. Now there's a big surge. So over the last 4 or 5 years, a really big surge of diversity, of it being more diverse than it once was. But it's the same thing. But I think, you know, we talk about access and opportunity. But
yeah,
for the longest, it was more of a retirement hobby. And it was rich guys who picked up this hobby to do this.
Yeah.
So
very much the case. The demographic in the fraternity in South Africa is very much old white guys. Bottom line. But what did disturb me was that not at any point during the course of the 3 or 4 days, whatever it was, during that convention, including the AGM of the committee, not at any stage was any attempts made to discuss, okay, how are we going to change this? How are we going to spread the love here? How are we going to try and overcome the barriers to entry to this craft? Because there are significant barriers to entry in terms of capital outlay to just kind of get going, sort of thing. Those kind of issues weren't raised. One. So it was disappointing on many levels, yeah. And it made me extremely envious of the kind of network and support system that turners have elsewhere in the world, the States in particular, with the AAW. And it's interesting for me to hear that from you now that the same kind of issues exist amongst the fraternity there, because I've had this impression of, wow, there's this great body, this great organization, this association to do so much to broaden the craft all over the world, actually.
Well, the American Woodturners Association travels all over the country.
Yeah.
And they make an effort to bring women in. And they've made efforts to bring in people of color.
Okay.
And again, these are efforts that are made to do it, because it wasn't always the status quo. And you look into the audience, and the audience is what you're talking about. It's mostly older white men.
Mm.
And when you get into a situation where there's older white men are giving the conference, older white men are participating in the conference, older white men are attending the conference, they're comfortable.
Mm.
So unless, it's raised, it won't change. And that's not to say that anyone is necessarily wrong or it's intentional. It's just the way it is. My high school was all black. It was all male. And to be honest with you, I was happy as hell. Because
you went to an all-male school, a guy's school?
Yeah.
Yes.
In New Orleans, it was Catholic. It was all black and it was all male.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah. And it was, for me, it was a comfort zone. And no one was asking, where are the white guys and where are the women? They weren't. And that's why I say that, because I can identify with that without being offended by it. Just like if there was a women's group and it just happened to be either black women or white women, because that's what it was. And it wasn't necessarily, oh, we're not going to allow this. It just, that's how they were formed. And I think in that comfort, unless there's a real purpose to be conscious or to bring other people in or to preserve or to save it, there's no questions about let's bring in more people.
Very much the case. Yeah, I agree with you. It's an astute observation. It's very much the case in the turning fraternity here.
Right. Because,
which is sad. I spent a very, very brief period as part of the local turning in Cape Town, Western Cape Woodturners Association. In fact, I went to 3 of their meetings. This is right at the very beginning, before I'd even bought my own lathe. I was trying to find somebody to teach me this craft, and it was the obvious first point of contact. And in the 3rd meeting, the guy who's supposed to be teaching me some very basics made some extremely crappy racist comments for absolutely no reason whatsoever. I can't actually even remember why it went there. And that experience possibly colored how I feel about the formal turning community here. I don't know, maybe it has or hasn't, but I know enough about South African society and the kind of people who were part of the turning fraternity here to know that there's a hell of a lot that needs to be done to broaden things. It's not just a case of, it's just the way it is now. There's no excuse for it. Yeah, it is the way it's always been, but it doesn't mean it's okay.
Correct.
But then, yeah. Anyway, it's challenging. It's interesting. As I said, it makes me envious of the turning fraternity elsewhere in the world and the networks, support networks, and the resources that are.
As we say that, Pittsburgh, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. I had on my T-shirt, Blacklumberjack, and Alan Adler. I met through Gil, who's in Jersey, and Alan and I met there, and we've been the closest friends since. And I was probably him recognizing, hey, we need more people of color in this, and giving me lessons, teaching me about it, and we're now buddies. I mean, the thing is from me starting the conversations. You spoke of John Jordan. John Jordan and I do a video call maybe once or twice a week. And we just shoot the breeze, and we get on it with Keith Gottschall, Nature's, Greg Grabelo's Nature's Natural Selection.
Yeah.
Bob Miller, Mass Woodworks. We just get on together and we chat. And I think it's one of those things to where, as I said, no one said, hey, we need to do this. But I don't think that the people here will be opposed to it. Just wasn't, previously, there was an effort made to push it. It was just people being complacent. All right, so let's talk about your journey.
Okay, how the hell did I get you? So I've been working with wood pretty much full time, 9 years now. 8, 9 years probably. I started my working life in the tourism industry. One of the first jobs I had was driving overland trucks all over the subcontinent as a guide on overland trips in Southern Africa and East Africa.
What's an overland trip? A trip overland?
It's a bunch of people in a vehicle driving around the countryside. So there would be different levels of trip. The more luxury trips where we're taking, the more upmarket trips where one's spending time in upmarket establishments at night, and then the budget trips where it's camping trips where you've got 20 to 30 European tourists in the back of a big truck, and you doing participative camping trips where you're spending time in really remote parts of Africa, and they're putting up their own tents and cooking their own food over fires every night, etc., etc. So there was that for a couple of years, and then my wife and I, that I was doing by myself. Then my wife at the time and I got into working in upmarket tourism establishments, lodges and camps. We started in South Africa and then moved into more remote spots in other parts of Southern Africa. We spent most of our working life in the Okavango Delta in Botswana.
And you were doing tourism there as well?
Yes. So initially running fancy safari camps, small, very intimate places, maximum of kind of 20, 24 guests at a time type of thing. At that stage, in the mid to late 90s, some of them paying upwards of $1,000 per person per night kind of thing. So very, very exclusive type of establishments. And then moved into more general management, running concessions with several lodges on, and then into skills transfer and training. There's Benoni Boyki. How's it, Benoni Boyki? Into more, running programs where we'd work with communities in very remote parts of the continent, identifying assets within the community that could be used as tourism assets to generate revenue, developing products, and then teaching people how to run tourism operations in very remote parts of Africa. So I did that for a long time. We lived it was a very intense life, living out of the back of a Land Rover for long periods. Awesome experiences. It was just the best lifestyle in many respects. But we reached a point where we thought, okay, we want to maybe be a little bit more conventional, and we moved back to Cape Town and settled here, and started a small craft business, sourcing and selling high-end craft to the safari industry. A lot of these safari establishments have gift shops in the lodge, in the camp. Generally very high-end, expensive kind of stuff in the gift shops. It's quite bizarre. They're camps in the middle of absolutely nowhere, selling sometimes really, really big items. So we'd sell African crafts, so traditional craft from all over the continent, and some really, really big pieces that have to get to this lodge in the middle of the swamps on a six-wheel drive truck over the space of a few days from the nearest, which is off the place. And then somebody from New York is staying there as a guest, sees this thing in the shop, drops a few $1,000s on it, and then it gets shipped up in New York from the middle of nowhere. But it's an interesting market for high-end craft. Crafts people, in these lodges, this cap, as it were. All the people doing their downtime in between game drives and that is go to the gift shop and shop. So we were sending stuff from Cape Town to these shops, and then after 20 years together, we split up. Things went to pot a little bit for a while, and I then started making. I'll show you. This is a concept that came out of actually rebuilding a lodge. These LED and driftwood light sculptures. So all the circuitry and everything is embedded in the timber, so you can't actually see it. It looks like it's an integral, it's integral to the piece of wood. So I started making those and selling them through a network of designers to the hospitality industry. And through that, started playing more and more with. I looked for places in Cape Town where I could learn basic craft skills. There weren't, unfortunately. There's a couple of schools here that teach how to make built-in cupboards, kitchen units, and bedroom cupboards, that kind of stuff. Working with engineered board, chipboard, and apply and that sort of stuff, but there's no one teaching fine carpentry skills. So just started literally trying to teach myself. Developed a little bit of a network of clients through my partner, who is an artist and works as an assistant to a very well-known sculptor in the country. A network of artists for whom I'd do installation work, custom plinths, display cases, that sort of stuff. And then 2 years ago, I'd always known about turning, and kind of went into demonstration by the local turning club, where they were allowing people to put a roughing gouge to piece of wood on a tiny little lathe. And within 10 seconds of holding that gouge on that tool rest, on a spinning piece of wood, I knew that this is what I wanted. It was a very instantaneous thing.
Okay, let me pause you for a second.
Sure.
Okay, let's talk about the woods that you use and the access to the woods that are there.
Okay. So for the lights, for the Earth stars, I use only invasive alien species. The piece you saw now is Australian myrtle. We have a big issue in this country and in the Western Cape in particular with quite a few Australian species that were brought in initially to stabilize dunes and reclaim land, that have become a big issue in terms of becoming invasive and making a very significant negative impact on water supplies. And this Australian myrtle is one of them. It's a class 1 invasive, so people almost pay me to take it off their land. I could, if I wanted to, run a business clearing it. It has, by law, landowners have to clear where the infestations of it. It has to be cleared. So that's what I use for the lights. It's worked out to be the perfect timber for that. It's stable once it's cured. Once it's dry, it's very stable. Doesn't move much, doesn't crack. It's these beautiful growth forms that work well for the kind of installations I do with that.
Okay, so what?
The turning, Cape Town, Robert, I don't know if you know too much about the geography here. Cape Town is a bit Mediterranean. It's there's very little natural forest, if any. It's like scrubland. It's more bushy kind of stuff. You go further up the east coast of South Africa, 500-600 kilometers away, and then one starts encountering pretty cool indigenous forest. But indigenous local trees right here, very little. However, it's a big city, and there's lots of, you would know, you're a flipping lumberjack in the middle of NYC. There's lots of trees growing. We've got lots of oak in Cape Town that was introduced hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Lots of exotics that come down in winter storms. So that's what I've been using. Largely oak. I just stumbled upon oak as a, it's become my timber. I think it's probably going to be the one I will work with mostly going forward because of the movement. I only work with greenwood. I only turn green for various reasons. And
what about the wonderful expensive woods that we're always hearing about? What about ebony?
Yeah. So I can get that. It's freely available here. There's a company, probably the best known timber merchants in the country, is a company called Rare Woods. They're in the States as well. They sell in the States. I'm trying to remember where their yard is in the States. Shit, I can't remember. It's in the South somewhere, I think. They stock a lot of African hardwoods, and you would know there are a lot of exquisite, outrageously beautiful hardwoods growing on this continent. Not down here at the bottom tip so much in the western, in the Cape area.
Do you have access to them?
Yeah, I probably would, you know, through my network of mates and contacts from the safari industry side. If I wanted to, I could get my ass up into Africa and get my hands on some timber like this. There are parts of Mozambique in particular where I've worked, northern Mozambique, where you do your nuts. That some of the wood is outrageous. It really is. Unfortunately, there are very, very, very few sustainable harvesting operations, particularly in that part of the world, in northern Mozambique. It's pretty much take it all, as much as you possibly can. Absolutely flipping everything from that diameter upwards. And it's all going to the east. There are harbors in far northern Mozambique. To be honest, it's been a while since I've been up there, but a few years ago,
let me just say, if you could get that morally, legally, ethically correct, you should get some of that, and you can send it to guys, turners all over the world would love that. That's another revenue generating part of your business.
Yeah.
You don't need massive stuff, just something to turn a bowl.
Yeah, it's turning blanks. Yeah, ball blanks. Yeah. It's definitely something I want to pursue for my own practice. Obviously, at some stage in the near future, I'm wanting to get my hands on and start working with some of the beautiful indigenous stuff. It's a fraught industry on this continent. There's a lot of very shady operators.
Yeah, that's what I meant ethically. Because right here, this guy said, TPJ said he loves something. I like something. Okay. So
look for rare woods in the States. That's your best bet to get your hands on some African hardwood at this point.
All right.
They're a South African company that now have a presence in the States. I mean, they don't only do African hardwood; they do all sorts of stuff. But you will get some African.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Do I understand correctly that property owners are required by law to remove Class 1 invasive species like Aussie myrtle?
Yes, that is correct. The letter of the law, I'm not 100% familiar with in terms of, okay, you know, if anything from a hectare downwards you can get away with, or hectare upwards you need to get rid of. But I do know that it's pretty strict. Australian myrtle, Jackson, Australian blackwood, black wattle, those are all Australian species that all grow pretty much along drainage lines, along water sources in this part of the world. They're all really bad. And yes, property owners are by law required to make every effort to get rid of them, the bad infestations. The policing and the implementation of those laws is a different thing altogether. They're not always enforced.
Okay. So let me make a point about the wood, right? And,
yeah.
And I'm not trying to harp on this. There's a difference between me going to rare woods and buying it from some huge company, as opposed to me knowing that you salvaged some of this ethically because it's fallen, or someone that did one in their backyard, and you cut chunks up of it and send it all over the world. We as tree cutters, we as wood turners, wood workers, would be more willing to support you doing that than we would some big company where we really don't know where it came from. That's just my 2 cents. And I think if you can get it, being in the current situation you're in now, it could help you as well.
I hear you.
Get it.
Yeah. Not right now. we're not allowed to. We're seriously locked down. We're not allowed to even leave our districts. No interprovincial travel. It's a little bit of business travel allowed, but one has to have a very good reason.
So you
but
can't,
yeah,
so your lockdown is like that. You can't move. They'll stop you on the street.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's opened up. It's opened up a little bit now. Our initial level 5 and level 4, which came to an end a few weeks ago, that was hardcore. We literally couldn't go anywhere.
Wow.
Loosened up a little bit now. We're not allowed to just bumble around the country. We need a permit to move out of provincial borders. It's still quite strict. No alcohol on sale anywhere.
No alcohol?
No alcohol. It was one of the more interesting aspects of the South African response to this has been a complete ban on alcohol sales and a complete ban on tobacco sales as well.
Wow.
No cigarettes. We could have a long debate about this, but yeah, it's caused a hell of a lot of trouble in the country. The alcohol ban, in particular, because of the impact on the hospitality industry, on restaurants and things. Restaurants are now allowed to be trading with sit-down service, but they can't sell alcohol, so that affects things hugely. A lot of restaurants are marginally profitable without their alcohol sales. So yeah, it's interesting times.
Wow. And how long have you all been on lockdown?
Since mid-March. Since mid-March, we were one of the early ones. Our government did a damn fine job early on. They really did. They got on top of it very quickly. Yeah, it's loosened up significantly over the last 3 weeks to a month, but we are still technically on lockdown.
How many people have you had infected? How many people got sick?
What are you asking?
I mean, roughly, it wasn't like the U.S. or Brazil.
It's about nowhere near U.S. numbers. Florida has a population slightly lower than our national population. We're sitting at about 47, 48 million, somewhere there. I know Florida's just under that, and Florida's numbers were significantly higher than us. Just Florida.
The difference is Florida didn't think it was a problem. Yeah.
No. I think we run about 350, maybe 400,000 now in total. Yeah.
That's not bad.
No, it's not. It's not bad at all. In Cape Town, where I live, in the city of 4.5 million odd people, we have about 8,000 active cases at the moment. It's negligible.
Yeah, that's not bad either.
Yeah, no, it's very reasonable. I mean, unfortunately the cases are it's very unevenly distributed in terms of area. Very, very close to me, a couple of 100 meters away from me here is an informal settlement, Masipumalele, a very high density squatter camp type environment, and they've got 75% of the cases there of this entire little part of Cape Town. So, and that's the case pretty much all around. It's in the townships and the low income areas where it's concentrated, unfortunately.
Always.
Yeah.
People who don't have room to be 6 feet apart.
Well, this is it. You're living 5 people in a 3 meter by 3 meter tin shack. How the hell do you even think about social distancing?
Right. Yeah. So, you want to give us a tour? Show us your stuff?
Yeah, just a quick one. I've got a very small space here.
We got 3 minutes. Let's do it.
Yeah, cool. I've been in this little student space, this is, well, just on a year now, just under a year. Maybe September last year I moved in here. I was sharing space with 2 other guys in a small industrial area before that. This is my first solo studio space. It's tiny. It's 30 squares, but it does it for me. I've got my lathe down the one end. Which is also an invasive Australian alien. It's a Vic mark. And
I see your grinders, grinder day.
Yeah, right there. Might have to turn around to sharpen tools. My workbench where I do the finer work. I'm starting to work with carving, texturing. Here's a piece, I don't know how easily one can see there.
Yeah, very nice.
That's work. I'm slowly starting to play with surface texturing and carving techniques. I do a lot because I work with a couple of species of oak. This is pin oak, palustris. I think it's kind of similar to what you would know as white oak.
Okay. We have pin oak as well.
Say again, you have pin oak as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is part of what I'm loving about working with oak. I think I turned my first oak piece about 5-6 months ago, and the movement in the drying process, I'm just flipping loving it. It's amazing.
All right, we got
because of that,
seconds.
obviously. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, keep showing.
More oak pieces. Say again?
Keep showing. We're going to the cuts off.
This is pepper, Brazilian pepper.
Nice.
Lots of that. It's like a weed here.
Okay. All right, we got.
It's a beautiful timber.
Do you want to get back on?
Beautiful timber. Oh, we can finish this off. We can finish this off, Rob.
All right, it's